All right, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're going to get started in the interest of everybody's time today. Can someone just let me know if they can hear me all right?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. So we're all here today to talk a little bit about the aviation programs at the University of Waterloo. Some things I'll let you know. There's a Q&A function that you can put questions in during the presentation. Or what we can do if you prefer to ask questions after is feel free to turn on your mics afterwards and we'll have time for questions and answers as well. I will let you know that we are going to record this session just for anybody who missed it, who wants to get this information. And we'll get started. So first of all, my name is Sarah Osborne. I'm the Aviations Program Manager here at the University of Waterloo. And that means I manage all of the, I would say, three sort of programs that we have. So we have the geography and aviation, we have science and aviation, as well as a aviation specialization. So you can see that here. And the aviation specialization is through the Faculty of the Environment, and it's not something that you apply for. So most people that are here today, I imagine you're here for geography and aviation or science and aviation. So we'll get started with geography and aviation. So basically what this degree gives you is you get a degree in geography and environmental management. So you can explore things from climate change to remote sensing, anything sort of geography and environment based that you'd be interested in. And then we also have science and aviation, which is where you can study things like chemistry, biology, physics, earth sciences, things like that, while doing all of your flight training. So what's really interesting about these two programs is you can sort of get a view of how aviation falls into the sciences or geography and the environment. And you may think, how do these relate? But they're actually quite related. And it's really interesting because you can come across really neat career paths that kind of involve both. And then we have the aviation specialization, which I mentioned. So that's you need to be a student in the geography and environmental management program in the Faculty of the Environment. And that allows you to, when you graduate, you have a specialization in aviation. Students in that section of the program typically take some of our aviation courses that we run, like human factors or remote sensing, that kind of thing, GIS, to build on their aviation specialization. So if we're looking at the sort of different subjects, you can see that both programs are essentially built the same way. You end up with about 33% of aviation courses. If you're in geography, the bulk of your classes, 45%, is geography and geomatics. And if you're in science, the bulk of your classes, 45%, are in science. Both groups take some computer studies and stats and, English and electives. In geography, you get a little bit more electives than you do in science and aviation, but not by much. So aviation at Waterloo, we're partnered with Waterloo Wellington Flight Center for all of your flight training. And this is the largest university level professional pilot program in Canada. And Waterloo Wellington is one of the largest flight schools in Canada. So when you graduate, you come out with your commercial license, your multi-engine rating, your instrument rating, and most students come out with their frozen airline transport license, but there is an option to do it without. The flight center, if you haven't been out by the airport, it's awesome to check it out. You can just call them and arrange a tour. It's located about 25 minutes away from the university, and they have a fleet of 30 aircraft. Tuition fees, they're all subject to change. These are approximate numbers, and this is over the 4 years that you're at school. So you can see that it's an expensive program. So it is important to know that the university tuition is available for OSAP funding, but the flight training cost isn't. So that is something to be aware of when choosing this program. So how do you apply? How do you get started in this program? Well, you need to apply through the Ontario University's application portal. We will, when you start flying, we will ask you for a Transport Canada Category 1 medical certificate. So those are taking about 6 months to a year right now. So it's best to get started on that right away, as you'll start flying in January or May of your first year. There's lots of FAQ online and information about financing the program. And Waterloo Wellington offers program information sessions. The next one is April 15th, and it's online. And you just go to their flight center and sign up for it. And myself and the team for Waterloo Wellington is there, as well as a couple other programs. We do it all as a group because the information is often the same, and we'll be there to answer any of your questions. And then the most important is that you accept your offer by the deadline, and we look forward to seeing you when you start. Some other things going on at Waterloo is we have WISA, which is our Institute for Sustainable Aeronautics. So WISA is doing amazing things right now. They have received several grants from the government, and they're starting all sorts of research, including electric aircraft. So it's going to be really interesting to see in the next few years what research WISA comes up about. At the University of Waterloo, we have world-renowned instructors and professors, both in the Faculty of Science and the Faculty of the Environment. We have Chris Hadfield that you can see in the picture, that comes to speak to our students every year. And we have a really well-known reputation in the industry, as well as the flight center has been around. It's one of, the original flight schools and the largest. So you've got well-known names behind you, which is beneficial when you're going out in the industry. So that was kind of a whirlwind of information. And so I kind of want to open it up now to questions, any questions anybody has, because that way we can answer more specifically. So, you're welcome to put them in the chat. You're welcome to put them in the Q&A. You're welcome to turn on your microphone, whatever works best for you. Did we cover all the information that everybody came here to see today? There's a question here. How many students approximately will you be accepting? So I believe our number is about 150 combined between the two programs for fall. I know that we've had almost 1,000 applicants this year. So it's very popular. Yeah, the number will be about, we anticipate the number being approximately the same for 2024. And the reason we have it limited to only so many seats is we only have so many aircraft. So we don't want to accept anybody. We don't want to accept too many people and then not have the ability for you to complete your flight training. Is the emissions average mid-80s? I'm not sure what the emissions average is this year, but I do know typically it is mid-80s, but I mean, it's definitely based off the other applicants. And so I can't give you an exact number because it definitely depends on who else is applying and what their averages are. The fees I mentioned is for the 4 years and they're approximate numbers and they're for domestic students. So anybody that's international, the fees are different. And, fees can change year by year, but those are approximate numbers. Does your progress through the flight portion of the program affect your overall progress in the program? You can finish all of your academics, and if you happen to be behind slightly on your flight training, that's fine, and you stay the extra semester to finish your flight training. That being said, the flight training is set up that you can be done in 3 years instead of 4. So theoretically, even with delays, you should be able to finish within 4 years. If you're applying for 2024, when should you start the medical? So the medical is valid for a year. So if you're applying for 2024, I would do it next spring. How would the process work for getting a medical if you aren't accepted into the program? Oh, so you don't need an acceptance in the program to go and do a medical. It's completely with Transport Canada. The medical does cost between $200 and $300. And so it is a cost that you're paying. But even if you don't get into the program, the medical is still valid for that year, and you could certainly explore flight training elsewhere. For international students getting a medical, all you need to do is go to, if you put in the search on Google, Transport Canada Aviation Medical Examiner, then the link will come up and you can put, what country you're in or what area you're in, and it will list doctors in your country or in your province if you're within Canada or city that are able to do the medicals. So they are available all around the world. The international student tuition, if you go to our program webpage, all the current fees are listed there, and that's really the best place to get the information from because they can fluctuate. So I don't want to give you a number and then have it be slightly off. Financial aid for the flight training. People do a lot of different things. Some people will work, and then I know that doesn't always pay all the fees. So some people have family help. Some people do loans, like student loans from the bank. There's a variety of things. Thank you for Alicia for putting that in the chat. There's a link to find out about aviation medicals. If you have a PPL, does it reduce your flight training requirements? So yeah, if you have your PPL already, we'll give you credit for your PPL ground school, and you can start at your night rating. So that does reduce things. If you want to go through the integrated program and get your frozen ATP, then we can only give you credit for 30 hours towards your PPL. Whereas if you're fine not doing the integrated and just having your IATRA written, then we can give you credit for your full PPL. So that's a discussion to have with a flight center when you're getting started on your flight training, what route looks better for you. Are the career partners on the aviation still accurate in terms of accepting graduates? They are. So we do have a partnership right now with Sunwing and Air Canada Jazz. So they do recruit directly from our program. And while the recruitment pathways look a little different for both of those, students in their graduating year are given information on how that process works. By when? So the admissions offer, I believe the last round goes out in May. But you can always check the status on the Ontario University site.
Yeah, that's correct. May is when you'll receive your offer by.
Thank you. Just looking through the chat here. If you don't get into aviation, but get into geography, environmental management, you can, we don't have a lot of students transfer into the program. So I don't want to tell you that it's a for sure possibility, Justin, but you know, occasionally we do open up transfer spots. So I'm not going to say it's impossible, but I can't say it's a guarantee. There are jobs on campus. I believe there's lots of student jobs on campus. And you could certainly apply for anything, as well as lots of local businesses that you could apply for. How many graduates each year on average? I would say we probably have, I'm not sure the graduating numbers. We don't have a lot of attrition in the program. So most of the students that start the program graduate the program. The cohorts that are graduating now, the numbers are slightly skewed because we had the pandemic in the middle. So I don't want to give you wrong information, but that being said, the only time we really have students leave the program is if they decide that flying isn't for them, they have financial difficulties, that kind of thing. We don't really have students that don't graduate, other than, you know, the typical attrition that any program would have. How do students get to the airport from campus? Yeah, so there is public transit. Grand River Transit offers a sort of like a shuttle service on a booking basis out to the airport at this time. That being said, we're always working with them to try and expand service. Some students have a vehicle or friends with vehicles, so I know there's a lot of ride sharing that goes on, as well as, you know, there's always taxis or Uber available. And then in the summer, I mean, you can ride a bike, but obviously not so easily in the winter. At the end of the program, the approximate hours you'll have are about 220. And that's pretty on par with every other aviation program in Canada, or even if you did it privately through just a flight school. The flight training is pretty standard across the board. Flight training does extend into the summer and during the holidays. So when you join this program, you don't get to go home for the summer. We expect you to stay in the summertime and fly, because that's our best flying weather. You do obviously get the end of December holidays over the new year, and reading breaks, and then a week or two between semesters, but there's no major breaks with 4 months off or anything like that. There is flight training during the winter. I don't know if any of you are near Waterloo today or in Southern Ontario, but the weather is gorgeous. And I know that they have almost 400 hours of flying booked today. So, the flight training goes year round. It's just you may run into more days where you can't go flying in the winter when we have snowstorms or low clouds or things like that. There is no co-op in the aviation program. The only time there would be co-op is if you're in the geography and environmental management program and you're doing the aviation specialization, then co-op is an option. The number of hours you can work, I mean, it's completely up to you. That being said, it is a heavy program because you're managing a full-time degree and you're managing flight training. So you don't, I mean, I wouldn't say that you could work full-time, but most of our students have part-time jobs, I would say for sure. For admissions, there's nothing, we only look at grades. And so we're not looking at anything else. So really, if you want the highest chance of getting into the program, it's about having that top average in the courses that we're looking for. I'm not sure what the acceptance cutoff this year is, but I do know in past years it's typically mid-80s. So this year we've had about 1,000 students apply to the program so far. Well, I don't want to say so far. The applications are closed, but yeah, we've had just under 1,000 people apply total this year. Thank you to Alicia for putting the links in the chat for me. I think I'm caught up on questions. So if there's anything else, feel free to throw it in the chat or turn on your microphones. That's fine too. You can apply to both the science and geography programs. Yes, that's certainly an option. The offers are usually about 50-50, but it can vary. But typically we aim for a pretty equal split between the two programs. Some years one is a little higher than the other or opposite, but we're looking for about a 50-50 split. I have seen students transfer between geography and science, but it's not a guarantee, and it's up to the faculty that you're looking to transfer into to approve it or not. Yeah, if you don't get in one year, you could certainly improve your marks and then apply again the next year. There's no issue with that. Do you know, Alicia, about the high school science courses instead of just a couple? Question here.
Yes, I can answer that. Excuse me, sorry. So No, you don't have a better chance if you take more science courses. We are just looking for you to meet those admissions requirements. So if the requirement is just to take two sciences, then we're only really looking for the two sciences. You're more than welcome to take a third to better prepare you for the program itself. And if the mark of your third science is high enough, we will use it as the sixth admission requirement course. So it's always a benefit to take courses that you're interested in and that you can do well in. But it doesn't necessarily give you an edge in your application by taking an extra science.
Thank you. Uh, what programs or activities are there available to cope with the workload? Yeah, that's a great question. So we have the Aviation Student Society. So that's a group of students in all of the years of the program that get together and do fun activities. But on top of fun, they're also they run a peer mentorship program, and they host lots of networking and learning events. So that way we can kind of make a great community in this program. The other thing is, I mean, on campus on Waterloo, there are lots of student supports. So, I mean, we have there's the peer mentorship, there's courses on study skills, there's study groups you can join, there's counseling and accessibility, you know, there's lots of options and lots of supports for students, and all students have an academic advisor that they can go to talk to if they're struggling with anything, and they can point them in the right direction. If there's any other questions, feel free to ask. There's a lot of great links in the chat, so I encourage you to take the time to check them out. And if we've answered all of your questions, thank you so much for joining us today.